morning, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Plunge and Coffee. Today I got another special guest and a good friend of mine, Ryan Davis. Come on in. Ryan.
Hey guys.
Ryan is a young bodybuilder. He's also an entrepreneur. He owns a meal prep business here in Iowa. So if you guys are looking for some nice and tasty meals, he got it. Precision Nutrition, right?
Precision by Nutrition.
There we go. We're gonna hop in the cold plunge, 2 minutes or so. I got a couple of questions for him. Let's see how he holds up. 1, 2, 3, plunge. How's it feel?
Freezing.
Ready for the questions?
Sure.
First question for you, Ryan. What's your go-to cheat meal?
Especially after a bodybuilding prep. You may make fun of me for this, but I always crave a chicken Caesar salad. So that's my first thing.
Hey, that's not a cheat meal, man. That's
hold on. With extra croutons, extra dressing, chicken, all of that. And then with that, I get some sort of steak. I know you said that's not a cheat meal either, but I get some sort of steak and then a sweet potato fry. And then my sweet of choice is probably a slice of cheesecake from Cheesecake Factory.
Cheesecake is a good cheat meal.
Yeah.
I love cheesecake.
So
what about during your prep?
During prep?
Is there any cheat meals during prep?
We do refeeds.
Okay.
So maybe if I'm lucky, I'll get a burger and a fry.
Nice.
I'm cold. But yeah.
We're almost a minute 30 in, so we're getting there. Another question for you, Ryan. What's the hardest part of a prep?
The hardest part about a prep is the consistency, because like with bodybuilding, it's around the clock.
Yeah.
So like it's not just one workout.
Yeah.
It's not just one good week. It's 16 weeks of every day. You'll make some mistakes as you go, and that's a good thing about having a coach is you can work with that after that.
Yeah.
But I'm cold as hell.
16 weeks, is that how long usually you prep?
16 weeks. Mine was 20. It was a little longer, but about 16 weeks is a typical prep for a bodybuilder.
You've done a couple of shows, but you did one recently, right? Back-to-back 2 shows recently.
Back-to-back.
How was that? Was that your first show?
That was my first time doing that. It was hard.
We're at 2 minutes 40 seconds. 10 more seconds and we'll be done.
Okay.
What's the longest you've been in a cold plunge?
0 seconds.
Let's do it.
All right.
Nice job. It protects it. The milk tastes pretty good when you steam. And we are back with the coffee. Delicious. We're going to talk a bit about bodybuilding, his prep, and a bit about his business. First question for you, Ryan. What inspired you to start competing in bodybuilding?
I started when I was really young. I think my first show was when I was 18. I grew up playing sports and everything, and then, graduated high school. I lost that access to competing, and so I looked into a bunch of different avenues of where I could put that aggressive, like, competitiveness into a different aspect. And I was big into the gym at the time, and bodybuilding wise, not like competitive bodybuilding, but my training style was bodybuilding and heavyweight training and that sort of regimen. And so I wanted to compete that summer, the summer after I graduated high school, because I wasn't in baseball or anything like that compared to what I usually was. And so I signed up for a competition, and I did the 16-week prep as we talked about before, and I fell in love with it. So I grew up watching Arnold and all the big bodybuilder names, and just looked up to them as like superheroes. So I wanted to be that someday, and that's what set me off onto that track, at least.
We kind of grew up in a golden age where we looked up these guys who you want to, kind of physique you would have, like everybody would like to have, but bodybuilding these days is like, it's not a physique a day-to-day person would want to have. It's only appealing to a certain group of people who want to get into the bodybuilding. People, You were pretty young when you did your first bodybuilding show, right? How old were you? How young were you when you did your first one?
18. 18 was my first one. 24 now, so 6 years ago.
How many shows have you done so far?
Since then, I did one when I was 18, and then I did one when I was 20, so I took a 2-year break. And then we can maybe talk about this later, but when I started the business, I took a little hiatus.
Yeah.
And then I did 2 when I was 24 now. So 4 total.
How have you placed in these shows?
Our first one, I think I didn't. I don't remember placing the best in that one. And I've seen progression in each show. So like I the numbers, I don't know the numbers, but like going from like 6th place in 2018 to like 4th place in 2020 to like still 4th place in 2024, like seeing slow progression is what it's all about.
You competed at a pretty big level in Houston, right?
Yeah, and
that's a huge show.
Me and my bodybuilder friends talk about how it's getting more popular.
Yeah.
So like the competition is just getting harder.
I guess next question for you, building on top of this, would be, what does prep look like for you? Is there blocks that you do where you build in one block, where you peak in one block? So in my racing training, I have 3 phases usually. One is a build phase, one is a peak phase, and the final is the taper and the race phase.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there are similar blocks in your training?
Yeah, a little bit less set in stone, like a little bit more like not official blocks, but we definitely have goals in each block. My first prep was 20 weeks out. I was 20 weeks out when I first started working with my coach and dialing in. So we spent the first 4 weeks. My base I wasn't eating too much before prep, and we had to fix that. So we started to spike my calories up and eating quite a bit of food those first 4 weeks. Then I'm at 16 weeks out. So even though I was prepping for a show, I was gaining, and then we started to come back down. And so from 16 to 12, food didn't really drop too much, and training was heavy and everything. And then 12 to 8 started dropping a little bit, starts getting a little hard. 8 to 4 drop more. So it's like a line graph, but like we went up and then we just slowly tapered down. So I'm mainly talking diet wise. Obviously, diet and training is both part of preps, but diet wise, kind of looks like this. So yeah.
You focus more on intensity, volume. What does training look
Training
like?
wise,
Yeah.
so training was the same throughout the whole prep. I did the same training split, 5 days a week, same body part on each day for 20 weeks straight, and the goal is just to get better each week. So even with the diet going down, I still strive to train as hard as I can.
So are you progressively overloading? Are you tracking the numbers that you're doing?
Progressive overload. Yep, tracking the numbers I'm doing. Obviously, when you start getting really lean, it's hard to progressive overload.
Yeah.
And you're starting to run on fumes and stuff like that. So it gets a little harder, but you can still push.
So the earlier weeks is where you can do the most lifting and still do the progression, and then you try to keep the strength while you go down in the weight.
Yeah, yeah. Keep the strength as you go down, and it's hard, but you have to hold on to all that muscle.
Yeah.
But I will say, about 3 weeks out and in, we pulled off on training. So I would still go in, but instead of being in the gym and doing my full workout for 2 hours, it'd just be like a 1 hour workout.
Yeah.
Don't go to failure. Don't tear yourself down, because it's a physique competition.
Right.
And the point is to have your physique built before the show, like 2 or 3 weeks out before the show. And those last few weeks are just to maintain and do some look good, I guess.
Yeah. This question for you, Ryan, is what's a piece of advice you'd give someone who want to get into, say, bodybuilding?
Sure. So like maybe if I was talking to you for like if you were going to do your first show, use that as an example.
That could be an example.
Well, I would say just in general is just to have fun, because like I said, it's getting more and more competitive. So you don't want to have such a long prep and then get to the show and maybe not be happy with your placing. So I would say just have fun and enjoy the journey, and I think that goes with any competitive sport. We were talking about that off camera. I was just enjoying the journey, not the destination, but just having fun and documenting everything, taking pictures, journaling, writing notes about how you're feeling at certain points, and you can look back on that. And just when show day comes, just having a blast and knowing that all the hard work is done and that you did all you can do, and have fun out there.
If you were to start over again, you're fresh into bodybuilding, what would be the key things you would do or change in your training, in your meal, and then the show? So kind of 3 things. like a key thing for training, key thing for the dieting, and then a key thing for the show? Knowing what you know now.
For training, I would tell myself to not to chill, take a chill pill a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I remember being 18 and going crazy, but I never realized that the recovery or the building happens outside of the gym. You go into the gym to get the stimulus, put that stress on your muscle, and then you go out of the gym and then you get better. I would just focus on the killing myself in the gym and going way too hard.
Yeah.
So I would tell myself to take a chill pill, and I know that it's easier said than done to do that, but that's my training thing is just to back off a little bit. For diet, I oh for my first show I didn't have a coach until like the very end, but I did have a coach at the end. So it's hard to say stuff I would do differently diet wise because I had somebody that was telling me what to do the whole time. But I did for my first show I didn't have a coach, so I was coaching myself, and I would say um, I would tell myself probably eat more is diet wise. I dieted really fast for my first show, and by 10 weeks out, I was lean, stage ready, and you have to hold that. And especially as a natural competitor back then, I was lean for so long. I lost so much muscle, just started to look like a twig. So
Yeah.
don't over diet. I guess both my advice to myself is to back off a little bit. The show day, I would just reaffirm the having fun because I think that's why that was my advice because I was so competitive for my first show. You can look back at my stage pictures. I didn't even have a smile on my face. I just wanted to win. Um, and I and for, even if you want to be competitive, it's better to smile anyways.
I agree.
But anyways, yeah, I would just say just have fun. I took my first show way too serious, and I was only there for the placings, and um, I wish I was there to have fun.
Yeah.
So
Last question about bodybuilding. How important is a posing routine, and how important is it to practice before or during your prep?
so important. It's something that I struggle with. Um, I think I just love bodybuilding for the gym. Like that's my favorite
Yeah.
part is training.
Yeah.
Um, but I would put all my energy into the diet and into the training that I wouldn't have the energy or the time to work on my presentation, the posing, and that's what a bodybuilding competition is so many times a better poser or somebody that knows how to present their physique to the judges will win compared to somebody with a better physique,
Yeah.
like on paper or like more muscle, leaner, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so you got to practice every day, and even if it's just after your workout, hitting a few poses in the mirror and making sure your cues are right. But practice makes perfection, and you just got to put in the time.
Few questions about your meal prep business,
Sure,
Ryan. How did your how did you come about your meal prep business? How did it start,
sure.
and what makes it unique?
Sure. So I started it my junior year of college. I was finishing my undergrad in dietetics, and I saw all of my classmates. We're all pretty. Dietetics is a smaller field at ISU, so like I had maybe 20 peers to talk with and stuff like that. And they were all talking about going to the hospital. Like, we were like, where are you going post grad? And they were all like, oh, I'll probably find an internship in a hospital setting or a medical setting. There were a few people that wanted to go to like a sports team. And I thought that was cool. But I didn't, a lot of the very vast majority of dietitians will go into the medical setting. And that just didn't sound what I wanted to do with my life. So I had to sit down one night and think about what I wanted to do. And I grew up in a kitchen and with around food and cooking and all that. That was all my previous jobs. And then I had my education in nutrition. So I combined the very minority of cooking experience with the nutrition. And I'm like, I want to start a business. So junior year of college, I posted on my story, hey, if anybody wants me to meal prep for you, I'll do it. I had like 2, 3 people swipe up and say, sure, go ahead. I'll pay you, and I'll post it on my story and stuff like that. So that was the very beginning. That was 3 years ago now today. And then it kind of snowballed from there. So that's how it came about, at least. So our motto is making meal prep easy and enjoyable. So people don't have time nowadays. Everyone's busy, and people also don't want to eat healthy food that they just don't enjoy. So we try to find the vast, or like the very fine middle between convenient, healthy, and taste good.
What is the most common mistake that you see people making about their nutrition?
This might not go to everybody, but at least what I see is people not giving themselves enough variety. People will meal prep on their own and they'll make their own meals and they'll get so stuck on like doing the same thing over and over and then they get burnt out of it and then they might relapse to their old habits and which probably aren't as healthy as what they're trying to do. So they don't make it as enjoyable. Like they got to find a way to enjoy it. So that's at least what I see. I know a lot of people are probably good at doing different things like you. You're really good at that, but just not giving themselves enough variety and changing things up and make it enjoyable for themselves.
What has bodybuilding taught you about discipline and how does that play into entrepreneurship?
They both go hand in hand. We talked a little bit about this off camera, but like doing such an intense thing, whether it be a bodybuilding show or a triathlon or in Logan's case, an ultra marathon, doing that insane thing, it just makes everything in your life easier after that. So like if you got through the worst of the worst of, in my case, bodybuilding, starving yourself to get extremely lean, to get stage ready, and then you come back to real life and you're like, okay, I can focus on my real life again without the starvation. I now have all this food and I did it. So now I can do this and focus on my life again. And it translated into my entrepreneurship, into my school when I was back in school. It just made life so much easier in general. So
Yeah,
that's what I got to say
kind
about it.
of makes you more grateful, right? When you're, especially when you're bodybuilding in a prep, I'm guessing when you're
Grateful for sure.
not eating as much,
Yeah.
you start being more grateful when you're able to eat.
Yeah.
Final note for the audience.
Shoot.
What's your favorite quote or what's your mantra that you kind of stand by that plays in your head?
Can I get religious?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I'm a follower of God, and my favorite quote is in Romans, and it is, "If he who was killed and then came back from the dead, us Christians, that same power is in us. So if he came back from the dead, there's so much power in that, and you can you have that same power in you as well. Even though we're human and we're not godlike, we are like that in a way. So I'll get a little religious and I'll use the power that Jesus had is in us too. So
that's beautiful.
yeah,
With that note, thank you so much, Ryan,
yeah.
for coming to
Thank you for
Conclusion
having me.
Coffee. See you guys next time.